It gets more important by the day, and there's nothing more thrilling than when Sam is sitting here taking calls just before we ring that bell. Sam Edmund is for Effective Freight Solutions. Get started with us today. Hello, Sam.
Not much bell ringing left to be done, it must be said. We're into our final week of the bell here, I think, because I'm assuming once the trade window opens as of next week, free agency, that will we still be doing the? I'm not sure. Anyway,
yes, I won't be here, so we'll be in
well,
a
it's the
different
death
phase.
of the bell.
Are you running the show?
I don't believe that to be the case. No. So, but we'll see. Anyway, the bell is in its final phase, so we'll try to go out with a bang this week if that is the case.
Where would you like to start today?
Well, I was going to start with this anyway, but the news has been announced, somewhat unfortunately for us, Gerard. But Dawson Hepple will stay on a one-year deal at Essendon. Now, the extension to this is that I believe there's a coaching component on the other side of it as well, which is curious given Essendon don't have a senior coach at this point in time. But Dawson Hepple, there is a part of this deal will be a 2-year coaching stint out the other side of it as a player. So whether that's in development or whatever it might be. So there's a soft cap component to that. Of course, he was wooed by Gold Coast, but he will stay as a player at Essendon next year into 2023.
Okay. So, and that ran through... It ran through a couple of odd phases, didn't it? Where Gold Coast was very much in play for a few days anyway.
Well, they were. They flew down to meet with Dawson Hepple. They were absolutely invested. Now has since become clear that they had a few irons in the fire when it came to that halfback role. Jason Johannesson, they had a discussion with him. In the end, they've settled on Ben Long, who has requested a trade from the Saints up to the Suns on a deal as well. So they'll get some pace into their back half. Gold Coast. We'll get to Gold Coast in a moment because they are an interesting player in this upcoming trade period. Quinton Narkle, the rumour mill, well, we're just on Essendon, has interest from the Bombers. I'm not sure about that, but his management are in talks with multiple clubs. The Cats say he's a required player, but no contract, not playing. If there's a suitor there, Quinton Narkle will definitely be playing for someone else next year. And we await word this morning, hopefully this afternoon, of Brodie Grundy's decision on where he will play football next year. I think he'll definitely get to Melbourne, Gerard. The terms, the money, we don't know. If it's a late pick back from Melbourne, obviously the D's are playing close to the full whack. If 5 years left at $5 million, of course, if Melbourne give up a top pick, then Collingwood is contributing heavily like they did for Treloar, which is the more likely scenario. Adam Treloar, by the way, they're still paying for the next 3 years, but they're happy to do that with Brodie Grundy as well. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Tom Hickey got a hold of them in the ruck at the weekend. For Brodie Grundy to depart. Anyway, that's a part of a wider debate. Dan McStay comes in, Billy Frampton, Bobby Hill too, Braden Fiorini will leave the Suns for the Pies as well, it seems. So they have got plenty going on, Collingwood, with Ollie Henry potentially leaving for Geelong.
This time yesterday, we were ringing the trade bell on Dunkley to Brisbane. So kudos to the correspondents who had sent us that over the past couple of weeks of the trade bell before all the logical steps were put in place. It was put to, so I've done a little bit of work on the trade front today to offer something as well.
Oh,
Sam.
hello.
It was put to me that this should be regarded as similar to Lachie Neale moving from Fremantle to Brisbane. He was a best and fairest. Dunkley is entirely likely to be the reigning best and fairest of the Bulldogs as he seeks this move, and he'd been a runner-up as well. Lachie Neale had won 2 best and fairest. The Lions gave up 6, 19 and 55 and got Neale and 30 back the other way. So 6 and 19 with 30 going back and 55 somewhere there. So that should be regarded as a model for how Dunkley gets to Brisbane. Trouble is Brisbane don't have the cachet of picks that they had in the Neale deal.
How they do this will be a fascinating watch, Brisbane. Given they've got the father-son Will Ashcroft they have to match a bid for, potentially a pick 1. So that wipes out straight away their entire draft haul as it stands right now, even before you get to Jasper Fletcher, the other father-son, and even before you get to Josh Dunkley. They've got 15, 33, 44 and a pick in the 60s and 80s at the moment. They'll get the compo for McStay, but they're going to have to get creative here, Gerard. Now, they could go into deficit for next year, but that's not great given their first pick will then lose value, but it has been done. Fremantle did it most recently for Liam Henry, an NGA pick in 2019. Darcy Gardner is another one. If he leaves, he's still unsigned as a free agent. There could be compo for him. If he does stay, I wonder if a player like Jackson Payne, who the Dogs have had interest in historically, could become part of this deal. Now, that might have changed given Liam Jones is coming into the Dogs now, but we know historically that interest in Jackson Payne, who's contracted for a couple more at Brisbane. Could he be involved in some way, shape or form as something of a sweetener in the Josh Dunkley deal, given he sits behind Adams, Andrews, Gardner up there at Brisbane? So the Dogs wanted 2 first-rounders for Dunkley when Essendon came knocking, and now he's 25, Josh Dunkley. Had one of his best seasons statistically, as you mentioned. So they're gonna drive a hard bargain. He's out of contract. He was in contract last time. They had more a greater foothold, I suppose, in negotiations. The Dogs. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and how the Lions actually navigate it going forward.
How are they going to come up with that early pick?
Yeah.
To satisfy.
Well, there's a future as well. They could use other clubs could get involved. Players, as I say, could get involved. But Josh Dunkley, in the prime of his career at 25 years of age, a super player. And you pair him with Lachie Neale in the midfield and he'll attend a lot more centre bounce at the Gabba. It's a beautiful fit for Brisbane, who maintain, I might add, an interest in Jack Gunston, who's a free agent. As of this morning, still no decision from Jack Gunston, who is weighing that move up to the Gabba.
The Gold Coast scenario, which has been occupying your mind for a couple of weeks.
It has been. I think they're a really, really interesting watch, the Gold Coast. Now, news today, of course, that the AFL is going to be more open to, it's not a great term, but the salary cap dump trade, if you like. Now, the AFL have allowed this in the past, somewhat begrudgingly, that they have actually greenlit these sort of trades this year. So clubs with room basically buying draft picks and clubs under cap pressure handing those contracts to other clubs in exchange for picks. So Will Brodie is Exhibit A from last year. The Suns will demand pick 5 for Isaac Rankin from Adelaide. So they've also got 7. So they got a 5, 7, 3 second rounders, 2 third rounders. They've got that many picks up there. They've had 9 top 10 picks in 4 years. Now, by comparison, the Cats have had 1, and he's in Brisbane, Nakai Cockatoo. Now, these picks stress the cap, given the jump up after a standard 2-year contract, particularly when you're the Suns or GWS, who, let's be honest, they've got a tax slumped on every contract by virtue of the fact they're in non-traditional footy markets. They have to pay overs. The Cats are the opposite. The Surf Coast sexy now, Gerard. Players want to be down there. So the Suns need talent, but they also need cap space. Now, they have forensically planned a preemptive overhaul of their pay structure. Now, GWS couldn't quite climb the mountain and now are having a fire sale. The same with Collingwood. Now, that's fair enough. You go chips in to win it. The Suns haven't been able to go anywhere near doing that, but they think they will. So to free up cash, to protect their emerging talent, Rowell, Anderson, King, etc., and to have a big crack at either a star free agent or a contracted player at a rival club in 12 months, 24 months' time, they're going to have some Will Brodie sequels this year. Now, I find this fascinating. It's pretty smart too. They're going from a poor team to an average team is the easy part. Get the draft picks in, few years, good system, good coach, you can climb. But going the next level, that quantum leap is much harder, and the Suns are here now. So how many picks do they need? They've had enough. Ben Long will come in. They've got as many as 4 academy kids next year, one of which could be graded as a first rounder. But they're going to part with a few. Braden Fiorini's been mentioned, but they're going to be aggressive in this space. They're going to be preemptive, and I think there's going to be a couple more Will Brodies this year, and they might not be the only club doing it.
So the clever clubs would be identifying a player at the Suns and zeroing in to take them off the books.
Yeah, 100%. And you're getting a pick. I mean, as I said, those picks that the Gold Coast have at their disposal at the pointy end, and they're plentiful, and the Suns don't have the need for them at other clubs. This is why North Melbourne become a factor as well, and we saw the concessions that are given to North Melbourne yesterday. Incidentally, that future second rounder I expect them to use on Hunter Clark. So we'd wondered how they could possibly bring all these players in. Now, Griffin Lowe can be walked to the preseason draft. Hunter Clark maybe gets used as part of that future second round concession package. And then you got Darcy Tucker, who could come on the cheap as well. Bradley Hill's another kettle of fish. And then they've got pick 1 as well, whether they're open to splitting that or not. So plenty happening at North Melbourne as well.
Yeah, so do you think Hunter Clark will land at North Melbourne?
Yeah, I think that's likely at the moment as we sit here right now. And I think that future second rounder that they've been given, the 2023 second round pick, could be involved.
Just take one off the text. I just want to double check whether this has come through twice or whether this is from 2 different correspondents, which I do rather enjoy when they come from 2 different ones. Okay, so this is 2 different correspondents, or it's someone with a burner phone, okay?
Okay, right. This isn't our barista.
No, well, I don't think so.
We'll double check.
Have you heard this one? Horn Francis. If Clarko can't convince him to stay, sign, and they can't get a deal done with an Adelaide-based team, the Saints would be favourite on a long-term contract, which came with, hi, would not like to disclose my name, but I have heard from a good source that Jason Horne-Francis will request a transfer to the Saints.
Right. So that's doing the rounds at the moment, clearly.
Two people have come up with it.
I must admit, I thought that fire had gone out as far as this trade period goes, and that Jason Horne-Francis was going to stick around in what, at the moment, looms as the final year of his contract. But it's that sort of trade period, or at least looming as one, Gerard, where we probably shouldn't be surprised at anything. GWS will lose Bobby Hill to Collingwood, Tanner Bruin to Geelong, Hopper at Taranto to Richmond. We know that. Geelong and the Bruin stuff is still to play out, given the Cats are in the grand final. But the Giants want a second rounder for Hill. And conversations are happening in good faith, I'm told, with the Tigers, who will pay a premium for Taranto. Hopper a bit more difficult given his contract, but a player could be involved here, definitely. And Ivan Soldo's been mentioned between the clubs as well. So the Giants want reinforcements in this ruck area as well, which is why they've sounded out Lloyd Meek, who I've got to tell you, Gerard, has interest from a stack of clubs.
Yes,
One of them, Hawthorn, given Luke Jackson is, well, I think almost certain to get to Fremantle.
Okay. There are numerous inquiries about Jack Gunston, who you referenced in the Lions conversation there. When's that decision looming?
I thought logic would have thought now, given this week, given we saw Josh Dunkley, given Brisbane are out of finals calculations now. But as I say, I checked in this morning, no decision from the player yet, who is absolutely taking his time with well, let's be honest, it is a significant decision if he wants to relocate to Brisbane, and the Lions would absolutely love to have him, given Dan McStay will depart shortly for the Pies. Just as I leave you, I know we're out of time here, Gerard. I know you got the boss coming in shortly.
Yes.
I expect him to confirm, and I know this has been put on your agenda during the week. This will be, pardon the pun, music to people's ears, because there'll be none of it on grand final day. No music after goals and no fireworks either. I know they chucked the fireworks on top of it in the prelim between the Cats and the Lions. No fireworks, no goals, no music, just organic roaring.
Yeah, so that's nice. That fireworks don't work in the afternoon, so there's just save your money on the pyrotechnics.
Probably a good point.
But the music after goals has been the source of discontent. All right, that's excellent, Sam. Did you have a Melbourne name on your list that you were going, or do you want to keep your powder dry?
Did we discuss Toby Bedford? He's still got a decision to make. I thought that one might have become clear as well, but obviously those exit meetings taking place, obviously at Melbourne in recent days. Still no decision from Toby Bedford, who did play in a successful VFL grand final at the weekend. So his season only just winding up, but has had a contract from Melbourne for some time. North, Essendon, GWS among the potential suitors there. He's had plenty of inquiries.
All right.